Well, hello, everybody. I am your host, Camille Jamerson, and welcome to Life at the Half. One of my favorite Disney stories is The Lion King. Now, not the one that just came out. I'm talking about VHS level Lion King. And there's this scene where the main character, a lion cub named Simba, has the opportunity to see his father, Mufasa, who had died earlier in the show, in a vision. And he appears to him in kind of like this cloudy vision form. And Simba had been struggling with all types of things. His purpose, taking his place in the Pride Lands due to his insecurities and taking responsibility for something that he didn't even do, um, or something that wasn't even really his fault. Maybe that's the better way to say it. And his father in this vision tells him two things. And these are the two things that we're going to kind of talk about today and make it relatable to the Gen X experience. The first thing that Mufasa tells him was that you have become you are more than you have become. How about that? You are more than you have become. And I went back and watched it again just so I could make sure I remembered that right. And because of the second line that we're going to share, sometimes we forget this first one. And Simba had been living in the jungle. He had made friends and he was living large. You guys remember Timba and Pumbaa, or whatever their names were. And he was doing okay, but he was supposed to be king, right? And he was supposed to be ruling and living at another level. And then the second thing that Mufasa told him, which is really where we're going to hone in on today, was to remember who you are. And because of what Simba had endured, and because someone else was kind of ruling in his spot, he kind of resigned to being less than. He was feeling like a fraud for even um, being in line, right, to um, become the next king. And his father said to him over and over and over again, remember who you are, remember who you are. So today, I am here to remind you of who you are and how, if you've looked in the mirror lately and thought, I am way more than I've become. Or even if you haven't been able to say that about yourself, this episode is still just for you. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about defeating the imposter syndrome and how to navigate this phase of your life, your career, and your future. And joining me today is the perfect guest to help us kind of decode the next step in our life. And it's none other than Gen X career growth coach, Tabatha Jones. You guys help me welcome Tabatha to the studio. Hello, 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 ma'am.
Hello, Camille. How are you? Hello,
I'm doing
everybody.
well. Hello. Let me guys tell you a little bit about Tabitha before we just jump into questions. Tabitha is a career growth coach and she's based in the San Francisco Bay Area. She works with Gen X female leaders who are ready to land their dream job, get promoted, and step into their confidence for ultimate career fulfillment. She has successfully helped hundreds of women climb the corporate ladder, develop as leaders, learn how to confidently tell their stories, and land amazing promotions. And her clients work for large corporations such as Comcast, Cisco, AbbVie, Tyson, and more. Now, Tabitha's story about how she transitioned into coaching was pretty interesting. So, Tabitha, I want to pitch it to you here and let you tell this as kind of your introduction. Kind of what happened. You were working in corporate America 30 plus years, and then
And then, so I was sitting in a conference one day, and bear in mind, I was leading large technical teams. And people who know me or don't know me very well are always shocked when I say technical teams because I'm not that mathematical. So, yes, so I'm sitting in this executive presence kind of seminars, kind of fun down by San Diego, and I'm listening to these ladies, and I've got this voice behind me saying, "Why are you still in the audience? I'm like, who said that?
Ooh.
And so as I kind of went through the day, my imposter syndrome kicked in. So a little more than we talked about already. But
Mhm.
what happened is I said, well, these ladies have master's degrees and PhDs, and they've coached people all over the world, and they've done all these things. Just stay in your lane.
Hmm.
So the voice keeps coming back and coming back. And
Mhm.
finally, I said, well, let's dip a toe in it. And I got started, and I loved it. Doing it part time, working my corporate job. Fast forward 2019, I decided I'm going to quit my job. I am going to go into this coaching full time. And then
Right.
pandemic.
This
So
little thing called a pandemic.
little thing, right? Just
Yeah.
caused a little bit of a shift in mindset there. So I thought, well, we just went through a reorg. I'll get my team settled, and then I'm going to go next year.
Yeah.
So I got to a point where I just, was kind of hesitating. I felt myself hesitating. And finally, I was just like, if you don't do it now, you're 51 years old. If you don't do it now,
Wow.
you're never going to know.
That's right. That's right.
And yeah, it just was so heavy. Like, I've got to do this thing. If it's on my heart, it is time. I want to go help other women. And I made the jump, much to my husband and my boss's shock. And here we are.
I I need to do a show on the shock of husbands
Oh,
when
it's the best.
wives it's the best. Oh my I could
Ah.
tell you guys about Mr. Jameson's face to this day. But so what sent you down this specific path to coach Gen X women? Like what kind of resonated with you that that was going to be your lane?
Yeah, such a great question. So, a lot of the coaching world is about niching and finding your people
Mhm.
and, the audience that you really resonate with. And I didn't initially niche, but I got to a point where I said, okay, let's sit down, let's look at who our clients are
Mhm.
and the clients that I enjoyed working with the most. And what I found is that the clients that I worked the best with, that had the best outcomes, were Gen X, generally between the ages of 45 and 55, some on
Mhm.
either end of that, high performing females
Mhm.
who struggled with confidence and imposter syndrome, who hadn't applied for jobs in 10 to 20 years, but are realizing, like, if I don't do this now, I'm never going to do it.
Yeah.
And just really realize that this is a special group of people. It's a special season in our lives. And it's a time where in the workplace, the competition is different. We
Mhm.
raised the competition, if you think about it, right? We've
How
got our
about that?
millennials, our
Yes,
Gen Z.
that's
Yeah.
right. We raised the competition. Man, I gotta write that down.
We did. We raised the competition, whether they were our own children or,
Yep.
whether they were nieces and nephews, etc. So what I realized is that I have a 28-year-old son, millennial.
Mhm.
We raised them to be confident from the moment they were born. Everybody's like, oh, that's the most beautiful
Absolutely.
baby I've ever seen. It never stopped.
Yes.
So they grew up with confidence. They grew up
And we
learning
gave
how to
it
be
to
proud of
him.
themselves. We gave it to them.
That's right.
So we have it.
Right, because you
Ours
can
was just
only
pushed down.
give. That's right, we only can give what you have. Oh, wow,
Exactly.
that's so powerful. That's so powerful.
Exactly. So teaching them really the strategies that you've taught those around you, right? So teaching
Yeah.
that strategy and bringing it back. And a lot of us are moms or aunts or heads of our families, and we just do things, especially
Mhm.
women, right? We just get shit done. Like, just go get
Yeah.
it done.
Yes.
And we don't think about the impact that action had on other people. We don't think
Mhm.
about the value that we bring to the world or the workplace.
Right.
And so I
Because
get to
it comes
spend,
so natural to us.
right, you just go do it. Oh,
We
that's
just
on
do
fire.
it.
Let me
Yeah.
just go put
Let's
that
I'll just
out.
put that out. Yeah.
Let's not talk about the 12 lives I just saved by putting that fire out.
No biggie. Yeah. All in a day's work.
Exactly. So for
Wow.
me, it was really realizing, this is what's missing and how can I get in and serve this group? Because I've used the strategies that I teach in my own corporate life.
Mhm.
I've used it as I've mentored and coached others. And it's just really amazing to see a woman come in just feeling like kind of beaten down and she can't and she's not enough and she's not good enough. And
Mhm.
then to see her start sitting up and see the smile and see the just transformation over about 10 weeks, it's what I love,
I
and that's
love
where I'm
that.
staying.
Love it. Now, that's a really good segue into the next thing I was gonna ask you. Is there or have you noticed, maybe I should say it that way, have you noticed specific reasons that caused Gen X women in particular to go down that imposter syndrome path? And I'm sure if there are men listening, some of these things are applicable to you as well. But I know, Tabatha, your sweet spot is women. So that's kind of why I'm directing it that way. Are there things that you've noticed that kind of cause that spiral to start?
Yeah, it's a variety of things. So, the root of most imposter syndrome is comparison, right?
Mhm.
And before,
Mhm.
back in the old days, we used to compare ourselves to the people that were sitting around us, the people in
Mhm.
our lives. And now we're comparing ourselves to people on the internet. We are comparing ourselves
Mm.
to influencers. So there's a lot of comparison and a lot of, I just can't do my job. I can't do her job the way she does it.
Mm.
So I hear that. I have heard a lot of, I build myself up, I get into the interview, and I look at the panel and realize I'm old enough to be their mother. They
Wow.
think I'm so old. I'm like, oh, they don't think that. You think that. It's none of your business what they're thinking. We
They're
don't care.
thinking,
That's not what
right,
we're there for.
right. Wow.
So a
Wow.
lot of
So
that.
do you deal with a lot of transition in thought, I'm assuming? Like, I think that's a big piece of maybe what you bring to the table as far as coaching is concerned, dealing with thoughts and mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of that. I'll give you an example of a client I'm
Mhm.
working with now who I knew her probably 20 years ago. We worked together. And to me, I think I was maybe a project manager, senior manager at the time, and she was a director. And she was just this badass, put together, beautiful, articulate woman.
Mhm.
Fast forward through life, things have happened, life changes,
Yeah.
and she reaches out and she's in tears.
Wow.
And I'm like, who am I talking to? You have the same name, but you're not the same person. So one of the first things we did, so to give a little more backstory, she was on a job search. She's been self-employed, but needs to go back to corporate for a
Mhm.
variety of reasons. And just cannot get an interview. Doesn't matter who she knows. When she did
Mhm.
get an interview, it was a disaster.
Wow.
And so I said, okay, let me start with your resume. So did my deep sea fishing, as I call it, like pulling
Mhm.
out all those accomplishments and experience examples. And the next week we sat down and I said, I want you to close your eyes and I'm going to read your new professional summary to you. And when I did, what I saw was her heavy face, her shoulders up, like, oh gosh, what am I going to hear? And
Right.
then as I watched her, her shoulders went down, her smile came up, her face brightened. And
Wow.
when I was done, I said, what did that bring up for you? And she said, you're talking about me. I remember you're talking about me. I'm like, yes, I'm talking about you. This is you.
Remember you?
Yeah, we just
Wow.
forget, you
And
know?
that's so key because it it one would think that, you're going to these interviews, et cetera, and you're not getting the job, and you'll immediately start internalizing that. Oh, I'm not a good fit, or I'm not enough, or I didn't have the experience. It's like, no, you have all of that, but you don't know who you are. And they can tell that, when you come to the table, because again, we're dealing with, in some cases, all of these confident millennials that we taught to be confident. And if you come in there defeated before you start, I'm assuming that that can be felt,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely.
Wow. So, despite our education and our experience and our accomplishments, some of us, I mean, we can read our resume all day, but we look at that and we think that it's not enough. All of these feelings of self-doubt start to creep in. So somebody comes to you like that, what's kind of the first thing you would do with them?
So the first thing I do with every client, of course, after the initial, download and kind of onboarding, is we start with two things. We start with a list of 50 things you're most proud of
Hmm.
and goals, personal, professional, and for our coaching program. Now, the 50 things I'm most proud of is really funny because I don't usually say much more than that. And usually I'll get 10 to 15 career related items on that list that are very vanilla. So, when I come
Give me an
back,
example of that.
um, I hosted a team lunch
Okay.
and received, 10 thank yous.
Hmm.
Something so basic, right? But then when you reposition it to thinking, okay, you're a lot bigger than your job,
Mhm.
what else are you proud of? I mean, me personally, I've rescued dogs. I am raised a son
Mm,
who is an amazing human being. He's caring.
that.
I gave him the confidence to become an entrepreneur right out of the gate. He
Love it.
never knew he couldn't. Those types of things should be on your list. You might have taken care of a family member or friend as they were going through some type of medical treatment, or, you may volunteer and serve food to people in your community. You may do a variety of things that make you that whole human being that is so valuable. You
Mm,
just forget.
wow.
Yeah. So that's one of the fun activities.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here as you're talking, and I'm like, 50, man, that's a lot. Because in my head, I'm like, I'm thinking, my kids, but I immediately start going to work. It's like, oh, I helped
Mhm.
this client do that. And it's hard to think of yourself outside of that space. So I'm really excited that you kind of put women through that, because I think that's important, just for them to hear themselves say, some of the things that they've done and some of the things that they're proud of. Oh shoot, we're going to take a break in a few minutes. But when we come back, Tabitha, I want us to talk about, how do we, or do we, compete with these younger generations and take up space in the working world? Um, like it or not, they're younger, and they bring things to the table that are unique or creative. They're tech savvy, they're whatever they are, all the things we taught them. So how do we, as Gen X women, how do we compete with that, or do we? So when we come back from the break, guys, you stay tuned. Tabitha's going to give us her insight on how we accomplish that. Be right back. Life at the Half is sponsored in part by the award-winning firm CDJ and Associates. With CDJ and Associates, bringing on a consultant to help pull your business together doesn't have to be overwhelming and stressful. Our firm is dedicated to bringing innovative, out-of-the-box creativity to every single project, creating dynamic, doable solutions for every client. Our unique expertise in branding, PR, communications, and strategic planning will catapult your brand into brilliance and boost your bottom line. Contact our squad of gladiators today at info@cdjandassociates.com. Again, that's info@cdjandassociates.com. All right, and welcome back to Life at the Half. We have here with us career growth coach Tabatha Jones from the San Francisco Bay Area. And before we took the break, I asked Tabitha, to how do we, or do we, compete with the younger generation and really take up space in the work environment, given that they're younger and they're more tech savvy and they're all these wonderful things that we hear about the younger generation. But we, as Gen Xers, we bring something to the table too. So how do we compete with what they have, or do we? Take it away, Tabitha. What do you think?
I love that you bring up the technology and the things that they've learned. We learned without technology. We adapted to technology,
Yes,
and that shows we can continue to learn and grow. So we are
I love that.
absolutely competitive.
That adaptability. I mean, and I can mail a letter. How about that?
Oh my gosh. Funny story for another time, because I could tell you a whole
I
long
know.
funny story about that. How do I mail a letter? Wait,
I'm like,
what?
what?
You taught me how to use the whatever program that is. I taught you how to use a
Uh,
spoon. So it's okay.
it's fine. We're even. Call it even.
So, for us, it comes down to those types of things, knowing we're adaptable, knowing that you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. This
Mm,
life, this world that we're in, it's changing at a really fast pace. That's okay. You're going to have
hmm.
to stop and learn things. You may have to admit that you don't know something and ask for extra support. That's okay.
Wow.
Um, really recognizing that we're worthy of getting what we want in life, and we have a right to go for
Right. That's right.
we talked about the raising our generation of millennials and zers, that you know you can do anything you want. Well, guess what, we can too.
Yeah.
And if we don't get it the first time, and millennials know this, but we still are adjusting with it. If we don't get something the first time or we fail, we need to accept the lesson, take it as a learning opportunity, make adjustments, and go for it again. We don't just
Mhm.
give up because it didn't work the first time.
Wow. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. So, what confidence builders or strategies do you put in place to help people truly kind of get over those types of humps and really remember who they are and what they can do?
A couple of things. So we talked about the 50 things
Yep.
you're most proud of list. I have, when I catch a client sliding backwards or self doubting themselves longer than I expect to see, I make them not only add 5 things to the list every week, but I have them
Oh,
record it and print it. So it is printed, it's sitting on their desk right in front of them. It's recorded. They can hit play on their phone and listen to it on the way to an important meeting or on the way to a job
oh, and in
interview
their own voice.
in their own voice.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's powerful.
That
That
blocks out that other voice
yes,
voices, right?
I love that. And speaking of kind of what the millennials get right as far as not giving up and being really resilient. What else? What do the kids get right, and what do the kids get wrong as far as this whole imposter syndrome space?
Yeah, for sure. I would love to add just one more thing
Oh,
on the
please.
confidence builders before we pop on.
Yeah.
So, the other thing that I recommend is really journaling.
Oh,
So,
that's good. I'm glad you
gratitude
brought that up.
journals and fear journals. So, you can get into your head with the gratitude journal, get into your feelings and into your happiness and find your joy, but get that fear out. So if something is keeping you in place, people are often afraid to move forward because they made a mistake in the past or
Mhm.
because one person who doesn't even matter today made a comment that now has you second guessing yourself all the time. Write it down, just get rid of it. Wad it up, burn it, whatever. Just get rid of those fears. That's helpful. And then the third thing, and this is something that I had to do myself when I was struggling for a little bit, when you forget who you are, go get dressed as who you are. I know it sounds so funny, but some days we're home, right? We're comfortable, we're casual, we got our yoga pants and our slippers on, and you're just feeling like, what's going on? I can't do it. Well, you know what? Go in your closet, drag that beautiful dress out from White House Black Market and your
Boop.
beautiful, Calvin Klein pumps or whatever your favorite
Yeah.
shoe is. Put it on and look at yourself in the mirror and try a couple power poses because that will shift your confidence right
Oh, I'm loving
on up.
that. And, I have a tiara in the closet, so, I mean, I could just go
Yes,
full out now that I think about it. I
absolutely.
love that. And I love that you said power poses because even your positioning, needs to change and shift in order for you to I think, in order for you to feel,
Yeah,
more like yourself. Is that something that you
100%.
ascribe to as well?
Absolutely. Because if you're slouchy and you're just like, it's a big difference
Mhm.
than this, where
Yeah,
you're
that
up and your
upright.
chest is out, your shoulders are down, and everything's where it belongs.
I love
Big, big
that.
difference. All right. I'm sorry. I took us off the
Oh, no, no,
question.
no, you're that
Way
was
to go,
good. I'm
more.
glad you brought that up, especially about the fear journal because, that's kind of the first time I've heard about that, but I think that that's a critical, strategy, guys, to really look at writing down your fears and getting them out of you and out of your head onto paper, and like you said, burn it up, throw it away, whatever, but, it's time to let some of those things go so we can move forward. So, the question that I asked you before we took that wonderful detour was about the millennials and Gen X's. What things do they get right? I'm sorry, millennials and Gen Zers. What do they get right and what do they get wrong as it relates to this imposter syndrome area?
Yeah. So, what they are doing right is that they have no fear. They don't care. They will
Mhm.
go try new things. They're brave. They care a lot less about what people think.
Doesn't
They
that sound like
seem
us though? I
it,
mean,
it
we
used to,
are
we just
the
forgot.
whatever generation. I mean, what what the heck happened? Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
We just forgot, right? Because,
That's
well, think
good.
about raising kids. If you do something wrong, they might get eaten by an alligator. Like
Yeah.
you got to, but those are not real fears. Those are
No,
just,
that's
things
yeah,
that stick with us.
right. That's
I'm
so
in
true.
California, zero alligators. But they're not afraid to fail because we taught them
Mhm.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Let's get some more practice and go do it again. So that's
Yeah.
what they do. It's natural for them. They're also really good at speaking up more and
Mm.
maintaining visibility. because they seem to know really clearly what they want. They know who can help them get there. And they don't ask for permission, they just go. Like they don't
Mm,
care, they will go. Which is what prevents them from spending years and years and years in the same job.
yeah.
Where, we will sit in the same job until we're perfect. We don't
Yes.
look at progress over perfection. We look at perfection and then move.
We will
Um,
stay in a job until we're perfect. Ooh.
we will. We'll
Ooh.
say we
Yeah.
need more education. We need
Yeah.
another certificate. We need this. We need that. They'll just go for it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely, a thing that is helping millennials and Gen Zers as they're building their career. Now, Gen X, we might have called that job hopping.
Right.
What it really is they go, they get the experience they need, and they're off to the next goal.
Mhm. Yeah, because and we pride ourselves in that faithfulness and sticking to a job for 20 years or to 30 years or whatever, when in fact it could be to our detriment from what it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Anything in particular that you think they get wrong?
Sometimes overly confident, so they can come off a little cocky, but I
Just
think
a smidge.
just a smidge. Other than that, I would say it's not necessarily understanding the value of, I call it, I guess, generational diversity, right? So
Mm,
all diversity leads to success in the workplace.
yeah,
Having a diverse group of mentors and coaches will help you grow and develop faster than you could do it on your own.
I agree.
I don't know that they always see the value in leaning on their Gen X
Mhm,
coworkers and colleagues to get
mhm.
that extra balance and learn and be open to hearing how we've maybe done something and why we know something different might be a better path.
Absolutely.
So that would be, if I were to say, hey, you youngins, I'm just kidding. If I were
Sweetie.
to talk to millennials and Gen Z, I would say, just make sure that you're looking at all forms of diversity, including generational diversity when you're looking for coaches and mentors.
I
You
love
can get a
that.
lot out of it.
Love that. And one of the things I tell people all the time is that when you're looking for a coach or a mentor, you want somebody that's already been where it is you're trying to go. They can't lead you someplace they've never been. So I think that's great advice. And that is something that I see along with millennials and Gen Zers that they'll look outward, to their colleagues and their circle, but not necessarily upward to the generation ahead of them. So I think that's great advice. So before we wrap up, questions that I ask every guest. First one is, what book are you reading or what book do you recommend?
So I'm going to answer with two answers there. So right
Okay.
now I am reading a Mary Stone, Detective Ellie Klein series. I love
Okay.
kind of suspense crime novels, so
Love.
it's a great series. But a book that I absolutely love, I have it right here actually, is The Happiness Advantage by Sean Acor.
Mm,
If you haven't read it, it is exceptional. And he's an amazing speaker. If you watch him on YouTube, he speaks
okay.
really fast. I've seen him in person twice. But he's done a whole study on happiness and how happiness truly impacts lives, and how happier people tend to get promoted, and they're more just optimistic about the future, and they don't let all the things going on in the world today get to them. So it's a great read, and he is an absolutely wonderful person to follow on YouTube.
That's awesome. Give us the name of that book again, Tabitha.
It's The Happiness Advantage by
Okay.
Sean Acor, Achor.
Awesome. I just want to make sure we get that on record. Now, think about Tabitha at 14 years old. Think about that girl. And what are 3 words that you would use to describe her?
Oh, she was awkward. Awkward, definitely unconfident, but very smart.
Mm. And what would you tell her today?
Oh, I would tell her that none of this is going to matter. So
Mm,
seriously, don't don't worry about what other people are thinking or might be saying, because it is none of your business. And this is truly a really short blink in your lifetime. So it's not always going to be fun, but so much good will come from it.
I love that. I love that. Now, before I let you go, would you tell people how to find you? And if you've got something going on that you think our audience could benefit from, I want to yield the floor to you for a minute to share that.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
Truly, the best way to connect with me is either on LinkedIn or on my
Mm.
website. My name is Tabatha, Tabatha. So I'm a Tabitha with all A's.
All
Last
A.
name is Jones. Website is my name, so www.tabathajones.com. And I actually have a booking link right on my profile on LinkedIn or my website if you'd like to talk. If you're struggling with imposter syndrome, you're getting ready to start this new season of your life and are looking to make a great career transition or get promoted, maybe in the career that you're in, I would love to talk to you and see what advice I can give you and how we might work together in the future.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Tabitha, for being my guest today and joining us here on Life at the Half. It has truly been such a pleasure. Maybe come back on second season.
I would love it. This has been so
Awesome.
much fun. Thank you, Camille.
Awesome. Thank you. Everybody, thank you. Thank you for tuning in today. And I hope that something was said that encouraged you, that nudged you, that kind of reminded you of who you are, and that as a Gen Xer, you still have time left to prove to yourself that you are more than you have become. And we'll be right here cheering you on here on Life at the Half.